Maybe we should have pulled the playlist. Has everybody seen the chat rooms? There is one about music around the world, from around the world, and I contributed a song from Romania. I hope at least everybody on our team.
And that's you singing, right, Diana?
What?
And that's you singing, right? In the
Oh my gosh, I wish. If you listened to it, I wish I could say that. But no, from Adele is on my mind now. I can't stop listening to her new song. It's crazy. But yeah, we should have had that playlist going.
We could have also invited some Finnequity musicians, right? Like we had last time during our annual meeting.
Oh, that's true.
That's a good idea.
that was a very nice surprise. All right. Well, as people are joining, it's already a few minutes past the hour, so maybe we can get started. Hello and welcome everyone. This is Tea with Finnequity. My name is Diana Deje. I'm the Finnequity facilitator, and just to let you all know that, as you may have already guessed, this session will be very different from all the other very content-rich, excellent sessions that are available throughout the week during Financial Inclusion Week. This is a session where we want to focus on getting to know each other, getting to know each other a little bit better, or deepen some of the connections that we may already have with individuals in the Finnequity community and not yet in the Finnequity community. Learn about what we're doing, what's top of mind, work-wise, and not necessarily. So it will be hopefully a very interesting, relaxed, but meaningful session for everyone. And this is how we are planning on organizing the session today. We will start off with brief introductions. Then we will go over a brief overview of Finnequity's main learning themes, just to catch everybody up with what we've been doing recently at Finnequity. We will have an open discussion with everybody who joined on what do you see as priorities for women's financial inclusion, women's economic empowerment, challenges, opportunities. So that will be an open forum discussion. And then we also plan to have 3 breakout rooms, thematic breakout rooms, to go deeper into some of the topics that are, priority topics to some extent within women's financial inclusion. And in those breakout rooms, we hope that you come prepared to share a publication that maybe you recently worked on, an initiative, maybe a dilemma, a challenge, or just to see, connect with people who are currently working on that priority topic. So based on how many people join, we will see the second half of the session, how we manage those breakout rooms, but that's what we have in mind. So we get started with introductions. I will invite my colleagues to introduce themselves as well, and I would like to invite everybody else to also drop in the chat box your LinkedIn profile, a link to your LinkedIn profile, or just introduce yourself. If you don't have one, just say your name and where you are logging in from. And at the same time, the Finnequity team will introduce themselves. And just in the order of how people show up on my screen, I would like to invite Katie to introduce herself. Unmute. Not unmute. Nisha.
Hopefully you can hear me. My name is Nisha Singh, and I am the facilitator for the Gender-Transformative Solutions learning theme within Finnequity. I've been with the team for almost 3.5 years, I think. Longer than that.
Yeah.
But very excited with people that I don't.
Thank you, Nisha. And Katie, now since, yes, your mic is working.
Hi, everyone. My name is Katie, and I'm leading the Digitally Enabled Financial Inclusion Workstream. I joined around the same time as Nisha. It's really nice to be here and, be a part of this fantastic week of really an absolute tidal wave of amazing presentations and panels.
Great, thank you, Katie. Mariana?
Hi everyone, my name is Mariana Martinez. I'm the regional lead for Finnequity ARC. I facilitate the regional dialogue for the Spanish-speaking Latin American community in Finnequity. I'm very excited to be here today to share what we are doing at Finnequity ARC. And if you speak Spanish or have an interest in our region, please join Finnequity ARC.
Qué bueno, gracias, Mariana.
Con gusto.
Yasmin?
Hello, those of you familiar with Finnequity already are familiar with me. I've been with it since day one. I'm the program manager of Finnequity at CGAP, and I always happy to meet new people, hear about new initiatives. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from you today so I can continue to guide Finnequity in my role as program manager to your needs.
Thank you, Yasmin. Jenny?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jenny Morgan, and I recently joined, and I'm working as the Impact Pathways thematic lead for Finnequity. And I've been enjoying the Financial Inclusion Week, and so happy to be here and connect with you all. And I could pass it to Antonique, I believe is the last person. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Jenny. And I'm Antonique Koning. I'm the gender lead at CGAP that is proudly convening Finnequity. I'm very much looking forward to hearing more from the community in this session. Back to you, Diane.
Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you for everyone who joined for sharing their LinkedIn profiles. I would like to give you already a small homework to make at least 4 or 5 connection requests with the other participants, unless you're already connected with them on LinkedIn. That's definitely one of the objectives of this session, to make new connections or deepen the existing connections, and just to have a little bit of a sense of how you have, or how we have engaged with Finnequity so far. We have 2 poll questions for you, and I will ask my colleague Ariel to drop in the first question. And you can all see the polls in next to the chat. There is a questions box, and then there's a polls box. So if you click on polls, you will see the first question. Ariel, if you don't mind opening it, it will ask you how you have engaged with Finnequity so far. And just give me a sign when the poll is live. But basically, we want to see. We want to learn a little bit more about whether you contributed tools, resources, participated in webinars, attended annual meetings, you're not sure, maybe all of the above, participated in online discussions. So the poll is active now. If you make your way over into the live discussion box, there is a polls tab. If you click on that tab, you're able to check all the options that apply. And I am very happy to see that many of us have engaged with Finnequity on content, participated in webinars, online discussions. Yeah, we got five entries so far. If we can get a few more, that would be great. Couple more. All right. Thank you. And Ariel, excellent. Final results. Most of us participated in webinars, learning events, and online discussions, which is great. And we have, I can't tell how many, I'm not sure. So hopefully by the end of this networking session, we will all be able to know how Finnequity can be a resource for you, and all the ways that we can engage. So Ariel, if we can move to the second question, we have only one more question for you, connected to how you have engaged with Finnequity, but it's specific to whether you are signed up to all of our platforms. So if we can pull up the second question, we can see the listing related to our platforms. We're just going to give a second for that question to pop up. And then in the meanwhile, my next question to the ones who have engaged with Finnequity and who are signed up to the platforms, if you can drop in the chat, in what ways was that helpful to you professionally or otherwise, your engagement with Finnequity? That would be great. Just a line or two of, if you're already part of the community, how has that been helpful to you? So Ariel, if we can pop the second question. I'm not seeing it, but maybe you all do. Is it available? It is, okay. And I just have to refresh. For me, it's not, but Nisha, if you see it, would you be able to read out the results of the second question?
What I see is we have 5 votes and they're equal between all the, other than I'm not alert signed into LinkedIn, Finnequity newsletter, G groups, and on Twitter. Those 5 people are very active.
Okay, perfect. Let me give you an opportunity to be even more active. I'm just going to share in the chat a link to our About page, where you have 3 options to connect right away with the Finnequity community or right after this session, but not later than that. Thank you so much for everyone who shared a little bit about how they found Finnequity beneficial, the postings of the events really useful, the newsletter have relevant materials, the discussion threads are really interesting. So we're very happy to hear that. That's basically the gist of what we are all about at Finnequity. So next, we wanted to share, as I mentioned, a little bit about our learning themes. We have 3 overarching learning themes as part of our learning agenda, and we have a few things to share that we've already accomplished, and we also want to share with you some of the things that are in the pipeline, and then we also want to share with you a little bit about Finnequity ALC, which is super active and has a very rich learning agenda. So I will invite my colleagues. I will invite first Jenny to share her screen, and then she will go first, sharing a little bit about the Impact Pathways learning theme. And then Katie will talk about the digitally enabled financial inclusion learning theme, Nisha about gender-transformative solutions, and Mariana will share a little bit about Finnequity ALC.
Okay, sorry, I was trying to put it on full screen, but it's not allowing me to do that for some reason on present mode. Is this
we can start with the Impact Pathways?
Okay. Yeah, can you all see well enough?
Well enough if we are all in full screen mode.
Okay. Yeah, let me try one more thing and then I'll, maybe if I exit full screen mode, that'll be better.
Yeah, it seems that the second poll didn't show up for some people. Our questions were whether you are signed up to our newsletter, whether you are signed up to our D Groups platform, which is the member-to-member platform that we use, whether you are part of our LinkedIn group, and whether you are following us on Twitter. So if you answered yes to all of these, you're good. If you were not sure or you answered no, I will drop the link to how you can get on all of those platforms again in the chat, and then we'll be mission accomplished. Thank you.
All right.
No need to redo the poll, Ariel. It's all good.
Apologies, but it's still not letting me present mode, so I'll try to make this as big as I can here.
All right.
Okay, so we were here, getting ready to talk about the different learning themes, and I'm going to get us started talking about impact pathways. So these are some of the ways we're looking at impact pathways this year. We want to take a look at some of the how and when financial products and services can help contribute to resilience and women's ability to cope with shocks and stresses in their lives. Another area we want to dig into is women's economic empowerment, and more specifically, how do we measure that? So we did a project last year earlier this year, mapping out different frameworks and that different various members are using. But now we'd like to really dig in and try and identify some core indicators that perhaps we can agree upon, get behind, look at how we can harmonize definitions, and then curate some tools that can be made available to everyone. In addition, we want to look at gender analysis tools and approaches and help to promote integrating that into research and program design and evaluation. These are just a couple of recent publications. So the Gender Data Brief is that brief on using sex disaggregated data. There's also an annex on some publicly available relevant data sets. And this has recommendations for both policy regulation and implementation. And then the mapping piece that I reference on different frameworks for measuring women's economic empowerment. And the next kind of where we want to take this is, again, trying to work with members to, together identify some indicators that are relevant for folks. And then even taking this to a kind of a collab peer learning group where we can try and test some of these out and see how it works for folks. We have a couple of events coming up. If anyone's planning to go to the European Microfinance Week, we'll have a panel on this topic of measuring women's economic empowerment with some great speakers from Africa Gender Innovation Lab, Women's World Banking, and META. And we recently had an event where we launched this initiative with CGD and Data 2X. And so if you're interested in seeing that recording, we had a great panel of speakers from CARE and other places. So with that, I will pass that over to Katie.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Jenny. Thanks, Jenny. So I'll be talking to you a little bit about the DEFI, or the Digitally Enabled Financial Inclusion Workstream. I think some of you are probably familiar with some of the activities that we've been undertaking this year, and actually even last year we built a lot of the content for our digital financial literacy, which came out some months ago in the early summer, and that was really born of a huge community effort to unpack the enablers and the constraints around digital financial literacy. And it's been a very interesting time to look at the space, because we noticed that other partners are really starting to see that this has continued to be a real question mark and stumbling block in terms of women's access to mobile phones. So we're really happy to be doing that. We're currently just in the middle of working on a bunch of design approaches. So looking at case studies which look at how design needs to be incorporated into every element of the customer journey. And so they are going to start emerging shortly. And as part of that, we're looking at heuristics and what is the opportunity to do this work in a smarter way. So unburdening the user from learning and really trying to match the way that we offer people the chance to get to know financial products and services in a manner that is far more suited to the reality and to the constraints of their time. So that's something that I think we're really excited about, and I'm going to come back to that. If you could move to the next slide, Jenny. As I mentioned, these design approaches, the case studies, which are looking at design approaches, they include Time Bank, Women Save, Lucy, Boost Capital, and Kaleidofund. And we're really trying to look at different ways that these organizations have understood an issue and directly addressed that. So really researched what is happening in their specific market and really tried to, understand how they could address that. And, these are not necessarily all super scalable, which is something that we are finding more and more that where we, whilst there is a desire to scale everything, we really do need very context-specific responses to these issues. And again, really starting to look at how less is more or mental hacks can enable better uptake and usage of financial products. So finally, I wanted to pose a question to you, if you can just move on one more slide. I have asked this question a number of times before, and I continue to ask it because I am sure that there are some great examples lying out there amongst all the expertise we have in the community. But it would be really great to hear if anyone has any good examples of heuristics being used in women's financial inclusion, or any kind of heuristic that's being used. So an example of this might be is sort of something that makes the learning journey a lot quicker and easier. So it's a sort of a mental hack. An example of this might be where you have I know that the IFC had done some interesting work with budgeting in the Solomon Islands. So working with tuna cannery workers to help them learn budgeting and help them manage a weekly budget. And they placed helpers immediately in the workplace immediately on payday and printed budget templates on the back of pay slips. And so really trying to simplify or remove the barriers to people actually taking action. Anyway, I would love to talk to anyone who is interested in heuristics, and I'll stop talking about digitally enabled financial inclusions here.
Thank you, Katie. And of course, we also have the breakout rooms, we have the chat, but most importantly, we have Finnequity LinkedIn group and D groups. So those are ways to connect and respond to Katie's challenging question. Anisha.
So I lead the Gender-Transformative Solutions, and we have the very unambitious goal of creating equitable financial systems that work for all in terms of creating livelihood opportunities. Jenny, can you stay on?
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to make it bigger.
So within this broad agenda of having gender transformative impacts on lives of women, we've broken it down into diagnosing social norms. It's been a longstanding discussion within Finnequity in terms of the role of social norms and really highlighting how that impedes women's financial inclusion and economic empowerment journey. So how do you understand them, and then how do you address them? And we took the discussions from Finnequity and fed it into a recent publication, which I'll get to in a minute. We're also looking at approaches to segmentation. My favorite line these days is women are not a monolith, and we need to understand their intersectional identities and needs and address that. And how do we get providers and other actors in the system to understand that? And then the third sub-theme within Gender Transformative Solutions is around changing provider behavior. And here I mean financial service providers or other support service providers in the system. And how specifically we are looking at how do you build gender balanced workforce as a strategy to make the system much more inclusive of women. If there are more women, then hopefully we will actually reach more women. So next slide, Jenny. So we did a few things. It's been a busy year. I'm not putting everything, but as I said, on the issue of addressing gender norms to increase financial inclusion, some of the discussions that took place within Finnequity in 2019, 2020 fed into this CGAP technical guide that just came out last week. So it's fresh off the press. And if you come to my breakout room, you'll get to hear more about it. And then earlier this, over the summer, we had a series of webinars, conversations with providers on really digging into this idea that how do you segment different types of, women based on and what they need, understand that. And we had some really good examples from Latin America, Axis Bank in Nigeria, and VP Bank in Vietnam, talking about how they actually did it and what the nitty-gritty of that process of understanding their needs and designing for these women were. So go check out the reporting. They were really short. And what we're prioritizing for next year is tools and examples for developing a gender balanced workforce. We're also looking at gender analysis tools, and this is in collaboration with the Impact Pathways workstream. And then there's been work going on in terms of, how do you diagnose social norms, some of which is mentioned in the technical guide, but we should have the publication to share on that sometime next year. So again, if you have tools, questions, examples of building gender balanced workforce, come to the breakout.
Thank you, Nisha. And Mariana, last but not least, tell us all about the amazing things going on in Finnequity ALC. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Hello, everyone. If you don't know Finnequity ALC yet, I will tell you that it's a very active community practice. Finnequity ALC is a forum within Finnequity. It's dedicated to promoting exchange and collaborations around women financial inclusions in Latin America and the Caribbean region. It's hosted on Portal FinDev as a space of regional dialogue in Spanish. We launched in January 2020 with the support of some external partners, initially with the Peruvian Institute of Studies and IDRC Canada and Andares Mujeres Network. And now also we are working with CAF, the Development Bank of Latin America, BBVA Microfinance Foundations, Women's World Bank in Colombia, AFI, and ProMujer. Today, Finnequity ALC reaches over 1,100 practitioners that represent more than 250 institutions in 21 countries in the Latin American region. Our members use our platform to share knowledge and experience and host discussions. And they have been very, very active. As I said at the beginning, our webinars and workshops attract between 120 to 600 participants per session. And we have published 18 blogs and have done more than 8 events, online events and workshops in the last 12 months. We have 5 working groups led by a fabulous group of a team of women with leadership positions on the partner institutions that I mentioned before, and that shape our learning agenda for this year. The topics that we are working right now are public policies and financial tools for women and their families to manage the COVID-19 crisis and regain financial health. The second topic is gender intentional financial education with a focus on digital financial tools. The third one is correcting bias in the financial systems and raising awareness and highlight good providers practices. The fourth one is inclusive rural finance for women. And the last one is the need for female leadership in times of COVID, something that we're going to discuss in some of our breaking groups. So if you are interested, you can join us. For this year, one of our goal is to be very close to the Finnequity global community to facilitate cross-global learning and connection. So if you speak Spanish and have an interest in the region, please join us. I'm going to drop all the ways that you can connect with Finnequity ALC in the chat. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. And I know this was almost like speed dating with the learning themes at Finnequity, but just to mention that all these learning themes and sub-themes and priorities were developed in consultation with our members and, based on based on your priorities and based on some of the issues that we have not seen addressed so much in the sector. So that's a good segue to my questions to you. You know, what do you see as priorities within women's financial inclusion, women's economic empowerment? What's top of mind for you? And if you don't mind dropping these thoughts in the chat, that would be great. You know, priorities, challenges, sector challenges, or something that that really keeps you engaged in the sector. That would be good. You can use the chat for that, and then we can all maybe react to the contributions from the group by putting, you know, the thumbs up icon, really to see how are things evolving. I would like to be able to see if there are a few topics that are emerging, or additional priorities that are emerging from this group today, that maybe, you know, Finnequity can be a place to take those forward through online discussions, or engaging with members, asking for help, resources, striking new collaborations, and so on. So scale, Susan, how do we achieve scale while trying to have tailored context specific approaches? And I already see a thumbs up, people voting on this contribution as something that is also important to them. How to direct more money to women's hands while a lot of government schemes are targeted at the head of household, which are often men, self-nominated. We need to do much so soon, but we need to be so careful about doing it right. Totally. Yeah. How are we scaling the right things? Yeah. Expansion of education for women. Women's access to G2P payments, especially in the COVID times. Great. These are great topics. Please vote, or you know, include a reaction to see if you agree, or if it's just as important for you as well. Moving women's financial inclusion beyond add women and start pinkwashing is more damaging than doing nothing. That's interesting, Julia. If you care to expand on that, that would be great. How we scale and expanding women's digital literacy. Thank you, Savita. That's definitely top of mind for many of us as well. How do we scale and foster partnerships in this exciting area of work? Great. Keep them coming, and anyone else on the Finnequity team, if you'd like to comment on any of this, you know, please do.
The scale question is really interesting. I know we keep talking about it, but it's also the flip side of it is, what bothers me is, why do I still have to keep making the argument that this is important? Isn't it obvious? And what does it take to change that? You know, like, it is the most obvious thing in a lot of ways, but we still haven't been able to convince the right people, which means that's why we don't have scale, or we're not able to address it at a system level. So I think it's the question of understanding what scale would look like, and how do we just change the conversation completely, that this is the norm.
When can we stop making a business case? Yes, Sarah. Yes.
I hate that phrase now.
Yeah, anyone else? Jenny, did you mean to say something?
No, I can't see the chat, so, but it's okay.
Yes, correct. Great. Well, keep them coming, and keep voting on these. How do we get more men involved in the cause? Yes, Antonique, absolutely. And in fact, I attended a session earlier today on this platform, and that came through quite a bit. and not only involved in the cost, but somebody made a mention of how can we engage men to change their own perceptions of what other men see them if they engage more on women's issues, especially changing gender norms. And I thought that was very, very interesting. Yes, demystifying gender. Men have a gender too. Correct. Great. All right. Well, these are great contributions. As I said, keep them coming. And I would like to transition now to our smaller group discussions. As you can see on the slide that Jenny is sharing, we prepared 3 breakout rooms for today, thematic-based breakout rooms. One to discuss gender-transformative solutions. I know it's a big bucket. One to discuss specifically this aspect of gender-balanced workforce in the financial services sector, and one to discuss designing for women's inclusion. And when I say discuss, is really, please select one of these rooms and come prepared to ask a question, share a publication, share an initiative that you're working on, and so on. So the way we can get to these breakout rooms, if you exit full screen, if you're in full screen, you will see on your screen the list of speakers. And if you scroll down, you will see the names of the breakout rooms that we prepared for today. So just click on one of the 3, and we will see you there for a conversation that will take about 15 minutes. So I would really love to have at least 5 minutes at the end to come back to the main room and wrap up. Great, we're back. And while we are waiting for the other colleagues to join, I highly recommend checking out the chat rooms on the platform for favorites. Hi, Yasmin.
Are we the last team coming back? All right.
That's a good sign. It means that you were able to discuss things.
We were really just ramping up, as so often is the case. But I did encourage everyone in our room to continue putting things into the Google document link that was shared. And I'll go ahead and wrap up quickly then, Diana.
Thank you, Yasmin. Yeah.
Great. So rather than calling on a share out per breakout room, I'm going to ask for volunteers to write "I volunteer" in the chat, and I'll just pick on the first 1 or 2 people to share. The rest of you, please also feel free to use the chat and drop in some main takeaways from your breakouts. I just want to remind you all of 3 things before I call on someone to share their experience. It's looking like it might be Sadia, but others, please do feel free to weigh in. So the first is that I want to remind everyone that Finnequity has this great community-oriented listserv, D groups. Diana already alluded to it. We've gotten feedback that people love the ability to quickly source resources from it. They appreciate the platform to share their research findings with this engaged audience. And a number have even landed new jobs by responding to positions advertised. We also host e-discussions via this D Groups platform. Some are initiated by our facilitators and some directly by our members. So I strongly encourage you all to sign up and to really have the confidence to, post publicly on it. Secondly, I would love to see all of you at the Finnequity annual meeting, December 8th and 9th. We will have regional sessions for Latin America, for Africa, and for Asia. So there'll definitely be something you can squeeze into your time zone. And finally, I want to request that you fill out the participant survey for this session. You have no idea how much we rely on these to understand how well we're serving the community and to get insights into what you all want and need. So please be sure to fill out our survey. So I'm going to drop that link into the chat. And I will scroll up now in the chat to see who I can call on. Sadia writes she's planning to roll out a field experiment in Pakistan on informal women workers of the bangle industry. So Sadia, perhaps you'd like to share what, if you're able to unmute yourself, perhaps you'd like to share a little bit about how you plan to connect with others that you met today or that you hope to meet through Finnequity on that. I'm going to give it a few seconds. Hopefully Sadia can unmute herself.
She said she was her internet wasn't very good earlier in the group, so that might be an issue.
Okay. Well, I think we'll probably leave it there. And I hope that you all sign up for those 3 things I mentioned. And really thank you, everyone, for joining us for tea today. Thank you.